Hi, it's Janet from the Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom. In today's video, I'll explore ways that questions can help us enter into difficult kinds of conversations when we're addressing especially controversial topics. I'm indebted to the work of Essential Partners in Cambridge, Massachusetts for describing this framework in their book, Fostering Dialogues Across Divides, a Nuts and Bolts Guide, and you'll find that reference in the online library. A core principle in this approach is that there's inherent value in understanding other perspectives. Not because we'll agree, well, because we may never agree. Not because we'll change each other's minds, because that's a surefire way to shut down honest conversation. I may strongly disagree with your position on an issue, but if I can understand the beliefs and values that are behind your position, except in rare and extreme circumstances, I don't think I'll be able to demonize you. And then from this place, where we have a shared humanity, we can be stronger allies and work together, despite the differences that we have in our positions. So, if you want to talk about a controversial topic, start with questions that focus on personal life experiences. Like, can you tell me a story from your childhood that shaped your perspective on this issue? Or how about, how has this issue affected you personally? These questions avoid the pitfalls of jumping headlong, well, actually diving headlong into an argument about whose position is right or wrong. The second set of questions focus on what's most important to us. For example, when you reflect on this issue, like what's at the heart of the matter for you? What are your hopes and fears, both now and for the future? And the final set of questions ask you to identify any areas of uncertainty you might hold. And frankly, this is where things can get a little sticky. These questions invite us to explore a deeper emotional vulnerability and identify areas where we might experience some discomfort or uncertainty regarding the issue. For example, are there any dilemmas or gray areas you'd be willing to share? Or is there an important value that you hold around this issue, well, that might conflict with another value that's also important to you? I know when I have a strong emotional attachment, it can be difficult to admit that I have any uncertainty or ambiguity about my views. Well, but if I'm honest with myself, I can sometimes acknowledge that I have some doubt. You can actually find lots of great questions just by Googling questions for interfaith dialogue or questions about cultural identity. I mean, no kidding, you can find everything on the internet. And definitely check out Essential Partners Guide, Dialogues Across Divides. You'll find a link in the Sisterhood online library to these resources, and they're a great place to start. But I want you to feel confident crafting your own questions on the spot, and the only way I know how to do that is to practice. So, here are my questions for you. Assuming you're planning a dialogue for your sisterhood meeting, what's your goal? Who will be there? What do you hope they learn? Then, think of this scenario. The encounter just finished and it was successful beyond your wildest imagination. You exceeded your goals and objectives. Well, what happened? What was the energy in the room? What did people learn? Were any questions particularly effective in achieving your objectives? With answers to these questions in mind, then you can sit down and brainstorm some questions. There'll be time to come up with a short list later. That's the beauty of brainstorming. Out of a random slew of questions, some unexpected gems may surface, ones that make you say, "Oh, I can't wait to have this conversation." And if you do it enough, it'll be easier to feel confident developing questions on the spot, especially if things get heated in the middle of a sisterhood meeting or an impromptu discussion in your family or house of worship. I'll conclude with a story. Years ago, a group of teens and I were hosting imams and scholars from the Middle East on a tour sponsored by the U.S. Department of State. The teens shared their personal experiences as American Muslims, and then they opened the floor to questions from the audience. Things got dicey immediately. A man stood up in the back of the row and demanded to know why state-sponsored textbooks in the Arab world taught that Jews killed Christian and Muslim babies and used their blood to make matzah, the unleavened bread eaten by Jews during the festival of Passover. Well, frankly, everybody panicked. I don't recall how the question was translated to the panelists, but I vividly recall the youth looking at me with terror in their eyes, not knowing how to respond. I knew that the man's question came from a place of fear and anger. fear of persecution, and anger that untruths about Jews continued to be promulgated. But I also knew that a question framed as a demand was likely to be responded to with defensiveness. So, I proceeded to ask questions that invited the man to express his fears and concerns. Well, obviously, we didn't solve the problem of state-sponsored anti-Semitism that evening, and it's likely that the questioner wasn't entirely satisfied with the answers he received from the religious leaders and scholars. Frankly, I'll never know whether any of the leaders actually believe this accusation. But what I do know is that when I reframed the original question to address the heart of the matter, the panelists gained new understanding about how some American Jews experienced anti-Semitism. And at the conclusion of the question and answer, a Syrian academic approached me saying, through a translator of course, that the evening had been the most valuable part of his visit to the U.S. And I paraphrase, "We've taken part in programs at the U.S. Senate and prestigious Ivy League universities, and this is the first time in 2 weeks that we've gotten beyond 'we all believe in peace' and addressed a difficult issue respectfully. You are most welcome to be my guest in Syria at any time." My only regret? I didn't take him up on his kind offer.